What lesson is this? 4?
It's 3.
This is lesson 3.
We did the snare pattern, and then we did the offset backspin on the last one.
How are you feeling with regards to the first 2 root moves that you learned with me? You already knew the breakdown pattern. Then I taught you the snare pattern, and then you learned the offset backspin. How are you feeling with those 2 moves?
Pretty solid. I'm not sure if I'm doing the offset backspin exactly how you do it. I mean, how I was breaking it down was I would do a single, and then I do double, and then I actually added some stuff to it as well.
Let me see what you're talking about.
Okay. So I think I added 3 other parts to it. So I'll start off with the single, and then I'll do double and see if I can nail it. Can you hear that? Wait.
Nice. Yo, biceps. You gotta flex biceps for that. Holy shit, dude. Yo, Zach, let me ask you this. When you're moving now after 2 hours worth of lessons with me and talking about this concept of DJing, I'm interested personally in hearing from you. What are the differences between manipulating sound on vinyl, on turntables, now as compared to before?
I mean, the precision is key, but then there's also kind of the breakdown of each one of the patterns, like having like a kick, and a snare, and knowing what to look for, and knowing what to go for. So being able to go through on the top 2 kicks, and then having the snare follow that. It's kind of opening up different doors, so I'm like looking at different patterns that kind of present itself. So it's it's more precise and there's more options, I think. So I'm looking at some of the old juggles that I was doing, and there's more technicality that I can use, and there's more sounds I can get out of the turntables.
You know what I really like that you just said, Zach? You're looking for juggles that present themselves. I love how you said that, and I actually might steal that quote from you because I really feel that juggle patterns aren't created by the juggler; they're tapped into, and they're tapped into because you're in a headspace to find the pattern. So any pattern that we do on any record already exists. You, the juggler, have to tap into the move. But the hand movements, the order, the intricacy, the speed, the timing, the rhythm, all of that already exists. So you, whether you realize it or not, are starting to, at least on a subconscious level, understand that the patterns present themselves. Like you get on, you start moving, and then another move reveals itself, and you're like, oh wow, I could do that too. Let me add that move. You know what I'm saying? That's very important because a lot of people that beat juggle force moves onto songs. So they'll learn a pattern on one track and then grab another track and force that pattern onto that track. And although the pattern may work, maybe that pattern, if you were open-minded, wouldn't have presented itself on that particular song. Maybe a completely different pattern would present itself if you're open-minded and not closed-minded and not approaching beat juggling like well, these are patterns that I'm just going to do across the board with any song. You master the patterns across the board with any song in order to understand the pattern and understand the movement. But when I say that, I just want you to be able to manipulate any song at will and freestyle and do whatever you want. But when you're coming up with a routine, you start off with the patterns you know, and then you stay open-minded and see what other patterns reveal themselves on a particular song. And you did something there just now, dude, where it was a mixture of like the 11th root movement that I teach, which is the total eclipse rolling fills and the offset backspin. Like, so there's a gap in the amount of technique that you apply, like a big gap. Like, there are still 5 other root moves that you need to learn before you even begin to understand the total eclipse rolling fills. But you're doing them on a certain level, and that is proof that you allowed yourself to kind of find that intricate move that I wasn't going to teach you for another 6 lessons, but you found it because it already exists, you know? Good shit.
There's with going through with a lot of the patterns, it's like you start to do the process or the procedure, and then it almost like you have the next step. It's right there. It's like with some of the patterns, you can tell that there needs to be something more, and it's like almost at the tip of your tongue when you're trying to produce it.
Exactly.
And then you're like, all right, well then what is it? And then you got to figure it out, and you got to go back and then do your root pattern, and then it presents itself. Like the sound is there, and it's like just trying to find it.
Yes, you find it. It's not like you force it or quote unquote create it. That's not true. No one creates any of this shit, dude. You tap into it. All the moves, all the patterns exist. Even the patterns we don't know already exist. Someone has to just tap into the movements the right way, and then the pattern reveals itself.
Right. It sounds like a musicality or a technicality, and once you get into the rhythm, and you're not even almost trying to do it, when you're really just kind of listening to it, that's when it kind of presents itself, and it's almost giving you the next step of like, oh, this is what would go with that. You have to just kind of let yourself go, I guess, let it be free.
Oh, that was perfect, dude. That was perfect what you said. Awesome, man. Good shit.